never made it, but I know what it takes. I'm motivated by a mix of emotion. Got my statement, and I'm reading it slow so I can understand it fully. Appreciate my standing, go out of this world and right on time. Oh, never in my life have I seen the sky light up like this. I'm far away from Earth and I wanna know if you exist. Mission control, do you read me? Send me my coordinates lately. Mission control, am I drifting? Tie me to someone who will love me, yeah. Wait, I think I'll last a bit longer. Find another.
Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone to another Ref Brandon and the Todd family YouTube video. Wherever you are, whatever you may be doing, thank you so much for making Ref Brandon and the Todd family a part of your day. We always greatly appreciate it. It is a Wednesday, so of course, you know by now that means it's time for another weekly Wednesday Top 10 Countdown. If you have any ideas or suggestions or thoughts about a future Top 10 Countdown, please feel free to let me know. And since week 0 in the world of college football is 10 days away, coming up next Saturday, the last Saturday in the month of August, I figured today we would do a Top 10 Countdown about college football. And this week's Top 10 Countdown comes to us courtesy of a website we've talked about and discussed quite a few times here on the channel about different conversations, and that is sportsnaut.com. And of course, that is N-A-U-T, like astronaut, not N-O-T. This article came out July the 2nd, and it was written by Matt Johnson. And I would love to say that this could be my personal top 10, but it's physically impossible because this week's top 10 is top 10 best college football stadiums. So in order for it to be my personal top 10, I would have to go to at least 10 different stadiums, but really more than 10, because the only way to know who have the best stadiums, you have to go to at least 25, 30 stadiums, because you can't just go to 10 and say, well, the 10 I went to are the best, because I'm sure there's going to be 4 or 5 you didn't go to that are just as good. So I would love to have the pleasure of going to all 130 Division 1A college football team stadiums, but I have not been to nowhere near 130. So this week's Top 10 Countdown again comes to us courtesy of sportsnaut.com from Matt Johnson, and it came out July the 2nd. And again, it is Top 10 Best College Football Stadiums. As always, any thoughts on the list, please feel free to let me know. Number 10 is Darrell K. Royal Texas Memorial Stadium, and of course, that is the stadium for the Texas Longhorns. Number 9 is self-explanatory. It's Notre Dame Stadium. Number 8, Neyland Stadium, which of course is Tennessee's football stadium. Number 7 is Autzen Stadium for the Oregon Ducks. And number 6 is the Rose Bowl for UCLA. Before we talk about the top 5, let's recap 10 through 6. Number 10, Darrell K. Royal Texas Memorial Stadium. Number 9, Notre Dame Stadium. Number 8, Neyland Stadium. Number 7, Autzen Stadium. And number 6, the Rose Bowl. If you have been to any of these stadiums, please feel free to let me know. I know I've got a good friend of mine who is a Clemson fan, and he tries his best to go to, if not every road game Clemson goes to every year, at least the majority of them. So he's been to quite a few stadiums, but it's only basically teams here in the South that Clemson plays on a regular basis. So he's never been really up north or out west, but he's been to most of the stadiums here on the East Coast. So whoever your team is, if you go to your team's home games and road games, and you've at least been to stadiums outside of whoever your team is, please feel free to let me know, because everybody has their own opinions and thoughts about stadiums. A lot of people just go by the atmosphere. A lot of people go by the location. A lot of people go by how friendly or non-friendly the opposing team's fans are. Some people go by the way the stadium looks, because a lot of these teams, like for instance number 8 Neyland Stadium, I've been by that stadium, I've passed by the stadium, I've walked outside the stadium, but it wasn't during game time. But I've never actually been inside the stadium. But I've read numerous articles about people saying that the stadium is nice, but it needs some upgrading. Now, of course, recently they've been doing some upgrading, but there at one time, the stadium didn't get touched for years and years and years. So it had that aura about it, and it had the tradition about it, but inside of the stadium, everybody said just looked absolutely awful. Same way in baseball with the Cubs. I know people who have been to Wrigley Field, and they say Wrigley Field is an absolute trash dump. But you want to go there because it's been there forever, but they say it's an absolute dump. Number 5 is Ben Hill Griffin Stadium. Of course, that is the Florida Gators football complex. Number 4, Tiger Stadium, which of course is LSU. Number 3, Michigan Stadium. Number 2, Beaver Stadium, which of course is Penn State, and that name absolutely drives me crazy, and I'll tell you why right after I tell you who the number 1 team is as far as best college football stadium. That belongs to the Ohio State Buckeyes, and of course their stadium name is Ohio Stadium. I don't think that's a shock to anybody. And the 2 teams that barely missed the top 10 were Alabama, who was 11, and Clemson, who was 12. And I encourage you to go to sportsnaut.com, N-A-U-T, and read this article by Matt Johnson that came out July the 2nd. Because even though I just did 10 through 1, the actual article does do the top 20. So if you would like to know if your team is inside the top 20, please go to sportsnaut.com and read that article that Matt Johnson put out July the 2nd. So it's a pretty recent article. But Beaver Stadium drives me absolutely crazy. And I think it's because of the fact that Penn State's nickname is the Nittany Lions, but your stadium is called Beaver Stadium. That would be like LSU Tigers, instead of having Tiger Stadium, you've got Lion Stadium. Or the Georgia Bulldogs having Tiger Stadium. Or the Clemson Tigers having Bulldog Stadium. To me, if your nickname is the Nittany Lions, your stadium should have Nittany or Lions or something like that in the name, not a completely different animal. Maybe that's just me, but Beaver Stadium for the Nittany Lions just drives me absolutely insane. Anyway, again, any thoughts on this, please feel free to let me know. We do a top 10 countdown each and every Wednesday here on the channel. And as always, if you have any thoughts on a future top 10 countdown, please feel free to let me know. Let's go ahead and get our dad joke of the day in here. My cousin was hospitalized after shoving 28 small plastic horses in his rectum. Doctors described his condition as stable. And that wraps it up for today's Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video. Until next time, it's Ref Brandon saying, just like in pro wrestling, life can be over by the count of 3. Tell your friends and family how much you love them. Bye.